If you've been watching or following my channel lately, you could see that I uploaded several Commodore 64 gameplays and showcases. The reason for that is that I used to be and still am a big Commodore 64 fan. It was my first computer that I had, and it was sort of the first game station that I had. Now today I'm gonna be showing you guys an excellent fighting game that was specifically developed for Commodore 64 called Long Life. Now first of all, here's the poster or flyer, like with an actual arcade game for the game, and like the title says, it's in Hungarian, but it says it's not Mortal, not Street, but it's Fighter. So it came out in 1994. Mortal Kombat and Street Fighter 2 were the biggest things back in those days in the arcades, and the fighting genre among all of the video game genres was one of the most popular back then. It was really the heyday of fighting games, especially for arcades and 2D style games. Now with this in mind, they wanted to develop fighting game for Commodore 64 specifically, and the good thing about this is that this was made for Commodore 64 specifically, with the restraints and limitations of the system kept in mind all the way. So it wasn't just a ported over version, for example with like Street Fighter 2, which made its way to Commodore 64, what was a piece of shit basically. Now this one was a proper Commodore 64 game, and they wanted to do the best possible fighting game or experience and fun with a fighting game on Commodore 64 that they could. Now I think they pretty much succeeded with this one. Unfortunately, this program is not well known because it came out in 1994. Commodore 64 was almost dead back at that time. So and it was developed and released by Hungarians, and they didn't really made too much marketing for this program abroad. So nowadays you can find this pretty easily on the internet, but even on the internet on Commodore 64 game databases, it's sort of missing in some cases just due to its rarity. Now first of all, here's a picture of the actual box art and the manual that came with the game, and it just looks awesome. I mean, it's almost on par with like the Super Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat big boxes that I have, and even the manual was just awesome. I mean, it had all these little details for the characters, like biography, some of the moves, then it tells about the story. So it was a really well made conception, the whole thing with the box and the manual as well, especially that we are talking about Commodore 64 game, and for Commodore 64 this sort of quality in terms of presentation wasn't really common in those days. So anyway, coming back to the game, it starts up with a beautiful intro, which I'm now going to be playing in the background, which tells you about the story and basically the quest that you are undertaking throughout this game. All the text is in Hungarian because I'm playing the Hungarian original version now, but there is also an English version out there. To put it short, the story goes, there's some sort of a magical talisman out there that's supposed to give long life or eternal life to whoever possesses it, and the whole fight is basically, or the whole game is just about trying to get this talisman back from the bad guys, so to speak. So the main boss of the game is never mentioned by name, who it is or what it is. It basically looks like Noob Saibot, which is pretty cool. Anyway, so that's about the story. You enter this contest, and if you just been watching these pictures, I think it just looks awesome. for Commodore 64. It sort of has that Mortal Kombat feel to it, with the blood and decapitated head in the background. So it's very graphical for Commodore 64, and it makes it pretty good. After you load it up, you will get to the character select screen. You can play either in 1 or 2 player mode. In 1 player mode, for the start, you only get to choose from, or you only get to play one character called Sato, which is pretty much basically a look like of or a rip-off of sort of like Sub-Zero in terms of looks for Commodore 64, which wasn't that much of a surprise because, you know, the popularity of Mortal Kombat at that time and date. So that's why you had probably a ninja as a main cast there. If you play in 1 player mode, normally you are only able to select him, but with special codes you can get the other fighters as well. If playing in 2 player mode, you can select all of the other characters from the get-go as well, which is pretty neat for, you know, Commodore 64. Now once you load up and the actual game starts, you will be facing up several opponents, mainly the ones that you just seen on the character select screen, and apart from that there are also hidden fighters and boss characters as well. So in overall, the presentation of the game itself, it just looks awesome. As you can see, they were pretty clever with designing the graphics. Once you are in game, the actual plane where the fight is happening is basically grayed out, which leaves a lot of memory and sort of CPU power to the Commodore to just focus on the actual gameplay, while on the top of the screen you have basically the background element, and these two things just come together pretty neat. You just have a look at some of the backgrounds where you are fighting at. It's pretty amazing. In some cases you even have, you know, torches on the walls, and it's got sort of an ambient and it looks very nice. Now unfortunately there is no music being played throughout the actual game, but sound effects I think are, you know, for Commodore 64 pretty much okay, and you could hear it in the character selection screen that there is some digitized speech as well, namely the name of the fighters and like fight announcement at the beginning of the game is also digitized and played in the game. Now as for the actual game, for Commodore 64 you could only use a joystick and one single fire button, so it's pretty much like with the Amiga version of Mortal Kombat 1 and Mortal Kombat 2. So how you pull off moves like this? Well, it's pretty easy. You just need to sort of do several combinations, movements around with button presses, but once you get the hang of it, it's pretty easy and cool. As you can see, there's a big variety of moves. There's sort of like a fly kick, like the ones Liu Kang has in Mortal Kombat, or Sub-Zero style, or ninja style slides or dashes, which is basically the most effective one, and you can sort of combo your opponent with it. But you can also do roundhouse kicks and frontal punches and high kick and everything, or additional moves as well. Plus you will also get the chance to do blocking, which is a bit tricky, and I wasn't really able to utilize it that much. Apart from normal moves, you can also perform sort of like a projectile or additional special move, which basically throws sort of like a fireball towards your enemy. Now every character shares basically the same set of moves, however their sprites are different, and due to that their effectiveness is also different. The character that you get to play from the get-go, Sato, is a pretty easy and pretty good character, I think, compared to the others. The others are great as well, but it's a good one for starters. Now the other interesting thing about this game is how it's basically how the whole gameplay is structured, which is very unique to a fighting game in general. Normally you would just have to fight your enemy and you know, win like 2 rounds, and then you would progress on here. There isn't a normal life bar, but on the bottom of the screen you can see the score of your health basically, and the score of your or the amount of health your enemy has. And down below you can also see 2 other items, and these are credits and hit points. Well, credits basically the amount of damage that you do to your opponent. Basically it just calculates the this damage and displays it down there, and you receive it as a credit. Hit points is basically how much damage you do to your enemy with one single hit, so it can be 1, 2 or up to anything if you can upgrade it. And upgrading is the really neat thing in this game. Once you finish an enemy, you are not progressing to the next enemy right away, but you have to first distribute the credits that you gathered together first of all throughout the match. So you can then decide whether you want to spend it on recovering your health. That's essential, because otherwise you will just continue with the leftover health that you had at the end of the fight. Or you can upgrade your hit points as well to be more effective, but buying hit points does cost a lot more than normal recovery of the life. So that's basically it, and you just have to go and beat the crap out of every single character in the game. Unfortunately, there is a sort of big problem. There is no continue, which can be a bit of a pain. But back in those days when I was playing this on Commodore 64, this was really nice. And actually, sometimes I still play this like now on an emulator, and it runs, you know, pretty good, and it just brings back a lot of memories. We even used to play this with my friends in 2-player mode, in versus mode, so to speak, and that was also a lot of fun. Well, you have to progress through a number of enemies and beat all of the bad guys, and then you get to see a pretty nice ending as well, which was also, you know, not that common for Commodore 64. So overall, this is basically the best fighting game out there or ever developed for Commodore 64. If you are a C64 or Commodore 64 fan, I would definitely advise to, you know, at least download it and play it, because it's worth it. If not, then just I hope you enjoyed this video out of curiosity.